Okay. Time to talk about Philly. Um, this was a weird weekend. You want to come say hi already, Gordon? Okay, come on, come on. Um, Taking Prism, of course. That's all I can play. Uh, but this was weird coming into it because a lot of people were talking about how Prism was like really well positioned and stuff, and I thought she was very fine. Um, I'm not upset to sit down across many of the three. The Vernit's matchup had gotten kind of weird. The ask was kind of on the Prism players to figure that one back out again. Um, the Gravy matchup had felt really good, but Gravy was falling off because he wasn't doing as well overall. The Syndra matchup was still just kind of an aggro race, but one where they have access to Flick Knives basically every turn, which makes our life harder. Stuff hadn't really moved. The Vernit's matchup was the only thing that had really moved, and Prism felt like she would be fine. She'd be in a fine place. I wasn't like super worried. People weren't generally bringing decks that could run a lot of tech. They didn't have a lot of space. Um, Syndra could put three or four poppers in the deck, but that's not like the end of the world. That also means it's harder for them on those turns to like potentially push advantage as long as I can pay for footsteps. But I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad a spot for Prism. Um, I didn't anticipate the amount of KO that we ran into, but we'll get into that. And I show up a little bit early, and I don't get a ton of CC testing in, but I'm feeling generally okay about it. I feel a lot better about it than I did looking back at Singapore. But yeah, we sit down for round one. We find a victor. Not exactly what I expect. I think there was only 6 out of the about 400 ish. Fortunately for us, this victor didn't know what Spectra was, which, I mean, this is the World Championships. I'm just going to run with that, and I'm just going to take it. There really isn't much to say about this game. I made one mistake where I didn't play around batter to a pulp properly, but I didn't get punished for it. It was still a mistake, but yeah, I played a passing mirage on like turn 2, and that was the only thing I basically did, and it stuck for like the entire game. So, um, yeah, round 2, we find our KO, our first KO. This is Florin Christian Logan, who would go on to make top 8. Um, he played super tight. He played it well, and we just couldn't get anything going. We did bring Gambler's Gloves and the Aura package for it, but we were just dying too quickly. I think he just had the 8 power poppers when he needed them. And I was trying to go for the high roll where I guess I could try and get there, but it just wasn't happening. I think he went first, and I had like 2 no blocks or 3 no blocks in my hand or something like that. It's just the matchup. Um, I don't think there was anything I could have done differently in this one. Yeah. Round 3, Verdance. This was Lucas Ung. Very good Verdance player. There was definitely something I could have done in this game, and I'm still not entirely sure what. I It looked like I got fatigued, but really I died to his last last source of arcane, or his last big source of arcane, I should say. I think it was his last blue emeritus scolding. Maybe he had one more and I hadn't counted, but I'm pretty sure he was out of burn bears and light up the leaves, and he had a total of 5 cards left in his deck. And if he gets down to just Everblooms and Waning Moon, I think I'm able to get there. Um, I think I was 1 card off. I wasn't 1 card off. I got stuck on I couldn't get Figment of Protection on board, or there just like weren't good spots to do it, or something like that. Um, I have not done a deep dive on how I want to manage spectral shields versus Spectra in terms of combating Scour, and how I want to try and punish Scour plays in this matchup. That's something I really haven't put the time and work into, and I need to, and I think I got punished at least twice in this game for it. So at least that can be fixed. But there was something where I had double Genesis, it stuck, and I don't know if I Genesised one too many times or not enough, where like I then do that and establish a merciful. Like there were so many things, and I ended up his end line ended up becoming fatigue, but I think he would have just killed me regardless of how many cards I had because of just the way things lined up. So there was definitely something that I needed to fix here, but there was too many points to look at without having a video of it, unfortunately. And I really wish I had a VOD of this that I could go back and watch and pick apart. Because this was far from my best game. Um, this was bringing in the sideboard package of 6 red heralds. You bring war tunes and triumphs, and you basically say, I'm gonna pressure you out of poppers, basically. Where if you're popping everything, you're gonna present just less damage at me, especially if you have to pop with burn bears. So we're leaning into that. We're being a bit more aggressive on the herald beatdown side of it. While then, as soon as we start getting angels, then we can pivot to an aura / board state plan. But this was not. I was not able to get there on that, even though this probably should have been a game I could convert to a win. Um, this one kind of stung because I wasn't able to get there. Round 4, Syndra. I'm still back and forth on whether to go first or second in this matchup. I think first is like slightly higher variance, but second never feels good. They usually get 4 or 5 points of value just because of the way blocking works against them. They played. I don't know if there was anything I could have actually done in this game. Maybe if I'd gone first, it would have been different because I did win the die roll in this game. He got to play 3 Art of Dragon Fires that were all live, as well as pop twice with Bastions on other hands. So this was. It felt like everything was kind of going his way, and I wasn't able to piece anything together, and I just wasn't. I think I was down like a hand and a half basically by the end of it, just because of the raw numbers that he was putting out. And I think stuff just kind of lined up awkwardly. I don't remember what I don't know. This one felt weird, and I'm not sure I could have actually pulled this one back, but it is what it is. That's this matchup sometimes. In round 5, we hit a second KO. I for sure made mistakes in this game. I know I made at least one where I didn't play an Arclight Sentinel. Instead, I played a Genesis, I think. And I needed to play the because I played the Genesis and Arsenal the Arclight, and I just needed to play the Arclight. He broke his beaten trackers very early, like turn 1 just to play a Savage Feast. He broke his beaten trackers, and that is something that I needed to punish, and I did not properly punish that. I didn't get a good. I got an okay Shariah turn, but it was a desperation Shariah swing. It wasn't good. Yeah, I don't know. This one I definitely could have played better. And I don't know if I would have gotten there, but it was definitely. I had much more game than the first KO game I played this day, which is weird. I'm not used to having any at all, I guess. Of note, both KOs brought beaten trackers into me, and neither brought scab skins, which I thought was very interesting. Because scab skins is like, I guess they view that as also the way that they just lose the game, and they'd rather just have beaten trackers just to aggro me down, maybe. But I'm definitely much more worried about scab skins because I feel like the only way I lose the game, or the only way that like the way that like they keep me from winning the game, I should say, the only way I can win the game is by playing auras and like resolving an ALS. And if they just get to push through it, then what am I gonna do? So I don't know. This left us at 1-4 after the CC rounds, which I'm not happy with. I felt weirdly better than I did about Singapore, just because going into Singapore, I felt like I was actually prepared when I in fact wasn't. And this wasn't like a total lack of preparation for me. It was like I needed something in the Verdance matchup, but like I felt fine. There wasn't any. It was just like it was one of those days. I didn't want to play LL. I just dropped after this. I had Verdance, or not Verdance, Visceri deck, excuse me, registered. I was okay with the list. It wasn't anything crazy. It was a variant of what Michael Fung had played in Sydney 2 weeks before or something like that. It was just a standard solid Visceri deck. And it would have been fine if I was still playing for day 2, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go and chill. Played a CC side event, split 4-0 of that, hung out with people. Tim Scroggs came to me and said, I don't know if I want to play Marlin, because I had handed him a Marlin deck to play for the weekend in LL, and he's like, I don't know if I want to play this. And I'm like, would you rather play Viserai? And he's like, kinda, yeah. And so I just traded that to him for the Marlin deck that I was letting him borrow. And then I go into the next day and I have like no plans, and I just play a CC side event, and I go Puffin, KO, Ira. And at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I also hit a Reinhardt in the CC side event Friday evening. So I've hit 4 brutes by the time I hit that KO. And I'm like, okay, I think this is just not my weekend. We're gonna chill. We're gonna go hang out with people. We're gonna go draft some cubes. We're gonna do whatever. We're not gonna worry about it. We're not gonna worry about it. We know we got stuff to do. It's fine. Um, and I sign up for the wait list for the Battle Harden anyways because I just want to play CC. And like we do a cube like Saturday night, and I get back to the hotel and there's like the email that like you haven't been selected, whatever. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just sign up for whatever CC morning side event there is, farm some more tickets, get some prize wall stuff, and be chilling with that. Um, and then we get there Sunday morning, and at 8:30 they start calling out extra names to fill the empty slots in the battle hardens, and they list off like one set of names, and then a second set of names, and then the third and last set of names they list out, they call my name, I think like second for the battle harden. Um, and it's like 8:45, and the battle hardens start at 9. And I'm like, okay, we're doing that then. So I run up to the stage, I pay and get entered and all that stuff, and I go back and I quickly just resubmit the same deck list that I played for Worlds. Um, it's just it's still just the stock standard Prism list that I always run and I can't seem to get away from. But it's fine. It's whatever. And we sit down for our round one, and it's my 5th brood of the weekend, and it's Tough Nut. And I have not played this matchup before. But Rock scares me because it says damage can't be prevented. So Angels go bye-bye. And it says 7 in the bottom left, which means I need to give 3 cards to stop it. So this matchup, like, scares me a lot. Also, they just have Scab Skins. Now, if they're playing Rock, I'm less worried about Scab Skins. If they were on Claws plus Blood Rush, then stuff would get weirder, I think. But also, that's a different build. This was a matchup where I just kind of took an on-turn, off-turn thing, and I kind of challenged them to convert hands, which they couldn't always do. And then he was almost... any of the stuff that cared about him being higher life, which isn't a ton, but some of the stuff that cared about him being higher life was never on, basically. And I kind of just said, I'm going to challenge you to clear auras and convert a hand, which I think if Tough Nut played a little bit slower, maybe he could do that reasonably well, where he's like, honestly, a pseudo-fatigue deck into me. But eventually I kind of just get an ALS to stick, and then I get a pass. Like, I get an ALS on the board, rolls Scabs. It's only 1 action point, and then like Intimidate. Like, I just start getting to build a board state, and Scabs never pulls enough action points to really push through it. And I eventually get a passing plus a pierce down. So I think I had Red Triumphs plus Red War Tunes just because I want to like make sure I have the deck damage to like push through and get enough Figments. And eventually I just kind of like just threw those Heralds, because if a Red Herald is coming in for 9, that's going to take their whole hand. They can't pay into Diggins. 1 toughness doesn't get them there as soon as you burn through the armor. You just start getting to take their entire hand, and then if they ever miss on Rock, you're just kind of going to win the game. Because really it's like, you'll send double Herald, you'll take their hand, they'll swing Rock at you, you block 3 cards, you arsenal a card, or you play a blue aura. And then you draw back up to 4 or 5 cards, and then go. I think I had Library in for this game, and I shouldn't have. They have so many yellows to either take advantage of it or discard to it, and I should not have done that. That was a mistake. I didn't get punished for it, but it was a mistake for sure. But eventually I passing plus Pierce carried me, and I was just presenting a Herald for 8 at the beginning of every turn, and they just couldn't keep up with that. And I was able to start defending for my Angels as well at that point, and just kind of grounded out. And I got to a point where where Rock just wasn't a threat to me, um, which was not what I was anticipating. But I think if I dove deeper on this matchup, it would get probably significantly worse for Prism. As you go deeper and higher level, I guess, on it. But we managed to get this one, which was really nice for seeing my 5th brute of the weekend to start out this day on a win. Yeah, that was really a boost to my mental. I'm gonna be honest. Round 2, we play against a Fang. I don't know that they had a ton of experience in the matchup. They spent a lot of time double blocking Heralds, or they would block both Heralds on a turn, and that just kind of gave me infinite time to break through their armor, find my red Heralds, break through their armor. As soon as the armor's gone, they can't stop Heralds from hitting anymore. And I sat on an ALS in my arsenal for 6 or 7 turns, I think, and they also just never marked me there during this time, and they never got a fealty during this time, because they didn't see a pledge fealty until the last turn or two. But this was an exercise in, if you're gonna give me all 4 cards every turn plus a point of armor, I will eventually take all of your armor, because it also means you're not resetting dynamos, which means it's much harder for you to block out, and you start having to give me real armor. And I just get to play this kind of grind game. I have enough Heralds that I will eventually break through. That's it. That's just it. You don't have enough 4 blocks or 3 blocks with your 2 block attack reacts to stop me from doing that. So I just kept doing that, did that for 6 or 7 turns, got through all the armor, started hitting, and eventually got to a board state of Ward 16. I had 3 Angels and 4 Spectral Shields out because Attendant is a busted card. And this was the turn after I haloed to take Shariah ALS turn. This was just I think some inexperience in the matchup with what Prism can kind of do on that game plan. So got there 2-0. Round 3, Florian. Pengjun, aka Foil Degen. Great guy to play against. Very chill. This was I think a sloppy game for me, for 2 reasons. I think I used Attendant on Shariah very early in a way that I just shouldn't have, because I didn't immediately have a plan to where I could Avalon it back, because that's part of the idea is I'm just going to force you to burn resources on this Shariah that's threatening to do stuff, and then I can Avalon it back later. But it just took forever for me to actually get to that point, and that was a big mistake. I was able to block out for Angels a lot. A Merciful lived a really long time in this game, I remember. And then a Genesis eventually gets to stick behind it, which let me eventually dig out of the hole and get Library out and start the kind of snowball of value where I don't think a tree ever came down, and a CMH came down on turn 1, but it didn't ever do that much. I did get a GRV during this game because at the start of my turn, I have 5 cards. I put an Arclight Sentinel because the Arclight Sentinel doesn't matter, because I think I already have one out or something. Or I just need Heralds to pressure life total. I put an Arclight Sentinel into my soul, and I make the Spectral Shield, but I don't draw a card. So the Spectral Shield, for it being an Illusionist card, drawing a card because it's a light card, I forget to draw the card. That is entirely my mistake. And if we hadn't been able to fix it, I would have totally understood. Because we had already gone Herald, flip an Angel, realize I don't have enough cards to swing the Angel and send another Herald, and that's when we call the judge, or I call the judge. He was nice enough to... The judge offered him the choice to let me draw the card, and he was nice enough to do that, and I really appreciated that. We end up getting there on that one just because it felt like he kind of lost momentum somewhere in the mid game. And it was just I kind of got to play he couldn't ever he didn't ever fully take me off library, I guess, which nah, that's not quite it. I was able to get back on library, I should say. He kept me off library for a while as I was like just protecting an angel. I think I was just protecting Aegis and swinging Aegis and making 2 shields. And yeah, I just got to play kind of a longer game and do the thing that I want to do against Florian, which is get angels on board, keep them alive, use them to grind out the value because they're very difficult for Florian to actually deal with when his weapon can't clear them. So, yeah, this matchup hasn't been as bad recently as it had been before. Now, there were runic reclamations in the deck, and there was a decent number of poppers. So, like, I don't know. Maybe it should be bad, but it didn't seem terrible. Attendant helps a lot. Attendant really helps a lot. But I also think Merciful probably lived too long in this game. So we end up getting this one. That puts us at 3-0, and we hit the other side of the Earth Heroes. We hit our first Verdants of the day. This game, kind of just everything went our way. I got all the pieces in place. They were all humming and working, and I was pretty happy with it. There were no real issues for me getting stuff going this game. I think there was one turn where a Pierce stuck because there was only Arcane in hand, and he couldn't clear it, and that let me just like really push over the top and get like 2 Figments on board or something on that turn and kind of lock out the game. There was also a mistake that my opponent made where they kept 2 yellows to blow up library, but they didn't know it was an action, so they tried to go Burn Bear for 9 off tree, Waning Moon for 2, discard 2 yellows to library. And they didn't know there was an action with Go Again that they could have just started their turn with and done all that. I don't know if they get there if they do that. I'm still in a decent spot, but it's obviously a big difference. And if they don't, then I think they do just lose. But that was something that got missed. But I think I was still in an okay spot even without it. But I don't know. It would have been a different game completely. So. Round 5, we hit another Verdants. This game was weird. They saw like all of their big arcane in the first like 4 or 5 turns. I think I was down to like 6 health, but they were out of 6-piece arcanes completely. And I took a Halo turn that I don't usually take in this matchup, which is they send I think it was literally for their last piece of big arcane, if I recall correctly. They send a 6 out, and I've got like 2 spectral shields on board, and I am able to like or like 1 spectral shield, or I think it's 2. I'm able to Halo, grab an angel, flip it, AB1, and like 2 spectral shields or something. 1 spectral? 2 spectrals, yeah. Because I need 1 on each. And that is able to protect Aegis, who's able to swing again and make 2 more spectral shields. And eventually I'm able to just stabilize off just that, basically. And like that's just become so important. And that was just like the biggest difference between these 2 Verdants games that I played here and the one that I played in Worlds is just getting protection on the board, getting Aegis on the board, and making spectral shields. Like that was the biggest thing because I never got that out in that Worlds game. So did that. I was able to this was like a grind game where I had to like pivot back, but like Aegis put in so much work in this game. It was crazy. I was very happy to claw this one back because I thought I was going to lose this game. I was very curious. The deck list was also very interesting. I would be very curious if I could find it somewhere. But that puts us at 5-0, and we still got stuff to do. Syndra. Oh, this game was weird. We had to play to our outs a bit on this one, which was we got the armor kind of early, not super early. So we won the die roll, and we chose to go first. And I dropped my hand, and it's 3 red heralds and a blue. And I choose to just filter a red herald, arsenal a red herald, hold the blue, and I can go for just like a standard War Tune curve and try and present like 18 damage on the next turn plus setup. and we have to eat a solid chunk of damage to do it. I think we go to like 18 or something, and they keep an arsenal. Um, and then we send that turn back. They take all of it. We get into it puts them to like 21 because we get like the courage token to make it 19 total damage, and we're pretty happy with that. Um, but we have an arsenal and stuff just like starts getting a little weird. We like Halo for Triumph and we try and double block, but we can't. And they blow up footsteps. Um, but we get to flip erudition, swing erudition, and like I think we get to send one herald, but like we can't convert a ton. I think it gets stuffed by like equipment blocks at this point, and then we end up in an end game where I basically just have to like hope I hit heralds of erudition, and I managed to hit two back to back. Unfortunately, one of them draws me double reds, neither of which is a war tune, so I have to go get like exactly Ravages to put him at 3 so that he can't just block with Flick Knives, keep 4 cards, or like keep 3 cards and buy back daggers. So I like force him to give me another card. I send a second erudition and it like closes the game out basically. Um, this was an extremely close game, and it didn't feel like stuff like went crazy one way or the other in this game. It felt like a very average game of Prism Syndra. There were no blowout. It didn't feel like there were any blowouts on either side, but I guess the Heralds of Erudition might have been. So I don't know. We managed to like barely get there on this one. It didn't feel great, but we got it. That puts us at 6-0, which feels really good considering how Worlds went. To like be like, okay, 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 just that was a day. Um, but yeah, we're not done. Got to keep going. We hit an Oscilio. This is Justin Fryer. This was a game. Um, I win the die roll. I think I literally won every die roll this day, which is crazy. I win the die roll. I chose to go first, and I lead off on a red Triumph. He pops it by blocking with a Flittering and pressing it. Now he that's a 7 block by a 2, so 1 D-React won't cover it, which is why I'm more comfortable doing that. It does mean I give up my Halo for their combo turn, but if I can push a decent amount of damage on turn 0, maybe I can just like close the gap and they won't have, and Oscilio won't have like the room to combo. I think it's worth it, and I understand if there's a disagreement on that. I could see saving it being correct, but also my hand couldn't pay for footsteps and send a second Herald. So because it was a tenacity and a yellow in my hand. So that was the line I went for. It hits. I go and get Shariah. I swing Shariah for 4 more. I draw 2. There's no shock then in the hand. Also, he somersaulted the Flittering charge, so there was only 1 card left unknown. Which, if it was shock, sucks. But I think I just kind of have to go for it at that point. Yeah, I don't know if it's correct. It might be incredibly greedy, but it was. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure it was correct, in all honesty. I end up drawing a blue and a red protection, and I get to send the red protection for 7, connects, another spectral shield. We leak 5 for 11 damage on turn 0, which is that'll do all right. He draws up his hand, and the only thing he can do is send back an erase face, which I take 1 of, which because we don't care a ton about Lighter Illusionist text, we care about names. I didn't have Genesis or anything, or a Merciful or whatever. So it wasn't a concern. We take it. We take 1, giving up Angel plus Spectral Shield. And we send just like a double Herald hand. Our arsenal is an Angelic Wrath, which is not the greatest arsenal, and I think I'm supposed to actually play it at one point in this game, and I don't. We send double Herald. I think they both get popped, and I was able to pay for footsteps, but they both get popped. Next turn, send another Herald, it gets popped, send a second one, we get an Angel, and then the next turn we still have that Wrath in our arsenal, and we draw double Herald, Figment, ALS, I believe was the hand. And I send the first Herald and pitching the Figment, and in my head, the correct line I think is actually play this Wrath to cycle it, get an Angel, swing an Angel, and arsenal the ALS for combo. To try and stuff combo, because they attack Gone in a Flash into the ALS, then the trigger for it never resolves. They can't bounce it. They can't keep going. Is it guaranteed to stop it? No, because they can just send a Blast to Oblivion at it. But then if they have the Blast and they could bounce a Sigil, it's not the usual ALS stuff. But it's also some way that I can interact potentially with their combo turn. Is just not necessarily a good way of doing it. It can prevent some damage, but it's also probably relies on me having double blue. I don't know that I like it. I don't know that there's better cards in the deck though, or to bring in from the 80. I don't end up doing that. I just send double Herald, and on the first one he blocks with Flash of Brilliance and bounces the Sigil of Brilliance that's in play, which sets off alarm bells for me. And I don't do the thing where I Wrath it to get extra damage, swing an Angel, I could have I had Triumph already out, and I could have swung Triumph with ability if this was going to be the combo turn, which would have been better. That alone would have been better, I think. And I send the second Herald, and he blocks with Greaves and Gloves, and I'm like, okay, he's going to kill me. And then I go, all right, Herald, do the search, start cleaning up, activate Prism. And he's like, I have a response, and I'm like, okay. Brilliance, CLV, Shock. Shock for 1, pitching a card. And I'm like, okay. Because I don't think he had Gone in a Flash at the time in his hand. I take 3 because I had 2 Spectral Shields, and the Shock was for 5 after Volzar. And he draws a card off the Channel Lightning Valley. The Angel flip resolves. We have the Angel out. Go to his turn. 2 Sigils of Brilliance crack. Respond, cracking Aether Bindings. Amp 2, draw 2. Draws 2 cards. Okay. Gone in a Flash. I'm like, it's time. And I say no blocks. Angel goes. Old Knocker, Lightning Greaves. Bounce it with an Electrostatic Discharge. I'm like, that's not good for me. That's a lot of damage. Gone in a Flash for 7. And I'm like, no blocks. Go to 17, draw with Channel Lightning Valley. At this point, he concedes and shows me 3 Mind Warps in his hand and no action point. That's Oscilio versus Prism sometimes. You're both... you're both funny decks, and you both sometimes don't do the funny thing. I don't know that I deserve to win this game, but my deck didn't fully implode, so I don't know if that was the correct line. That's not. I haven't played enough Oscilio to decide to be informed, but I'm gonna take it. That puts me at 7-0 and locks me for at least 2nd seed in this event. So I'll take that. Okay. Now, with that, round 8. This is Jacob Clements on Marionette. I believe this is also what he played in Worlds. This is the very dagger-focused, just big number, throw it at you, Marionette build. We're not going to really mess around with stealth. We're just going to play dagger good stuff and the few assassin things that are easily supported around it. So Codex, Leave No Witnesses, Kiss of Death, that stuff. I won the die roll. I chose to go second. He flick knives a clave at me on turn 0. I later learned that Andrew Cook prevented that with Calming Gesture on turn 0 against him. And it was something I'd thought about because I'd only played against this variant a couple times. But I'm not sold on it, but I definitely understand the idea with the way the games have played out. I definitely understand why people have been doing that. I only take the 1 damage on turn 0. I get to send back a double War Tune hand, which is red plus a yellow pitch plus a blue War Tune. And I arsenal blue War Tune. Now, he had flipped into Funnel Web, and in my head, I'm just like, I'm just going to sacrifice this blue War Tune, it's fine. But that's not correct. What I'm supposed to do is sack the soul. I'm supposed to go risk going off soul here and just go send a War Tune, send the red War Tune, then swing the angel and send the blue War Tune for 6 because of courage token. This is correct because then I don't just burn a card. I get 4 extra damage. And he doesn't get value off the banish. That was just wrong. And I'm like, well, I'll just, get him to like try and maybe keep a card. If I'm just like, because if I'm holding a card, he's less likely to block the second herald, which is only for 6, which is much easier to cover. No, that was just wrong. I think I ended up like sequencing all of my heralds like very poorly in this game. And I think I played this game fairly poorly because I was playing it like regular assassin, essentially, and not just dagger explode you number assassin. And that was a big mistake. I did not understand what was going on, or like not. I didn't have a full understanding of how this was going to work and how it was going to play out. And I got punished for it quite effectively. And I also I misplayed around a codex and this and that, and it was just bad. This was a bad game, and this is something I'm really going to be working on in the next couple weeks to try and shore this one up and make sure I'm not making those mistakes again. So, but that was fine. I was kind of just taking a little bit of a breather, honestly, which is not an excuse, it's the reason. But we're still in top 8. We're still second seed. We still get turn selection. Unfortunately, we hit our 6th brute of the weekend. This is RKO, KO underhanded cheat. And I've played this matchup a few times against Dex fan, aka Rhinoceros. This matchup is bad. It's really bad, I think, for Prism. They get scab skins. They can use it very effectively because they have a bunch of 0-cost attack actions that just mow down Spectra. They get to block very efficiently whether or not they have the popper. Poppers for them are typically 8+, or typically 8s. They'll have a few 6s, but that won't matter in the long run. They've got a decent number of D-reacts. They have a good fridge. They have Scowling Fleshbag. Their main damage source is effectively Mocking Blow, which is just always going to boo them. Everything they want is working. And that's bad for us. Now, I think this matchup is probably not necessarily as bad as I once thought. I think it's still pretty bad. They don't convert hands super well. They can play kind of a slow game. I had Gambler's Gloves in, which did change the dynamic of the game a lot. Because the RKO, my opponent actually, they pull us over for top 8, and they're doing the picture, handing out play mats, all that stuff, and they're giving us our seedings. And I realize it's that I'm playing the RKO, and I'm like, you're 7th seed. And he's like, yep, you're a Prism. I've played you before. You're the Prism that looped me at Nats last year. I'm here for revenge. And in that moment, I'm just like, oh, I'm not the main character here anymore. This is bad. Which that was a great moment. That was fun. I enjoyed that. And he proceeded to, for the first 5 or 6 turns, kind of just work my life total down, pop whatever I would send at him, just play his efficient hands. And I'd kind of just took a more defensive stance than I had before. And I was trying to protect my life total and stuff like that. And I was able to turn 0 Merciful. So I get a card in Soul. And then I'm waiting. I'm looking for an Arclight Sentinel. And I draw an Arclight Sentinel with a hand that's Wrath passing Figment of Rebirth. So I just hard cast Rebirth and pass, just to cycle 3 cards and look for a Herald. And I draw Library ALS Pierce. And I'm like, okay, this hand is bad. I guess I'll block with Pierce and then play the library and hold the ALS. And I am playing library in this matchup because RKO plays significantly less yellows, as well as no beast withins. Um, I'm much less worried about library being interacted with in whatever way. Um, so I did bring it in for this matchup, and I think it was fine. It was probably the only reason that I ended up being in the game as long as I did. Um, I when I have that hand of double ALS library Pierce, he sends a big bully at me, and he's holding multiple cards, and I'm like, okay, this is probably 12. This might be pummel, and it ends up being a blue pummel. And I just stare at this hand that is just like trying to kill me because the pummel big bully sets me to 7. And I realize that like my only line to like do anything is discard the Pierce, flip Avalon with like the one card I have in Soul, because I have a Genesis in my arsenal. With the one card I have in Soul, and then play the library with the second ALS. So I'm not going to get an Arclight Sentinel out of this. I'm just going to pitch double Arclight Sentinel, which is miserable, but I'm going to gain 4 life and buy me a touch of space and hopefully get something going. And then I get to draw to 5 off library. It's 5 Heralds, and I'm like, all right, we get to block. And he sends like, what was it? That -4. I end up like giving a card that 7 take 5. I think it was just another big bully for like 12, just with hero ability on it. And then I go and I have 2 light blues in my hand, so I go pitch blue, activate Halo, flip or search Shariah, putting a yellow herald into Soul, draw a card, flip Shariah, play Genesis off a light blue. Getting to do all of this because I have double blues, and I get to take a Genesis turn, Shariah, draw 2, pop. He also pops blocking with Bonebreaker, gives a Might token, just claws Shariah and passes. And I'm like, we're in. And I'm at 2, and I managed to get him all the way down to, I believe 7 is where like the crit, where like the break, the, where I end up losing the game is I get him down to 7. I had another line in this game because he was very hesitant to roll scabs because I had Gambler's Gloves, or not very, but he was relatively hesitant to roll it. I think multiple times he just went claw ALS pass because I think I just got to play like 3 ALSs. I think I got to play all 3 of my arc lights. I'm pretty sure I did. And I have a line where I've got 5 Spectral Shields on board. I have Aegis and Victoria flipped. And he goes E-Strike at Aegis. And my hand is like yellow, yellow, red Triumph, Figment of Ravages. And with a full grip, he sends E-Strike, go again at Aegis. And I don't actually know that this is the correct line with the way the game worked out. In the moment, it seemed correct, even though it was very greedy, which is hard cast Figment of Ravages, targeting myself, sack Aegis to it, eat your action point, and I'm left with 2 Heralds of Ravages. Or, sorry, 2 Heralds of Triumph, red, in my hand, and I have 2 Genesis on board. And I end up being able to soul both of these red Triumphs to Genesis triggers, draw 2 yellows, flip Ravages, swing Ravages with 2 Arcane, and swing Victoria again for another 4 damage. So I get to present 10 damage as well as reset my Angel and get 2 more Spectral Shields to go up to 7. I don't know that this line was correct in hindsight because I do minus myself 2 red Triumphs out of deck, which is huge when we're starting to hit second cycle and I can actually run him out of poppers. Those 7s are big. That's a lot of deck damage that I lost out on, which ended up mattering because I effectively got fatigued in this game. He just started targeting down Angels and just playing very conservative and tight. I do punt the game away at one point on, I send a Herald of Rebirth, or I send like a War Tune for 9, a blue War Tune for 9. He gives me 3 cards. I send a Rebirth, yellow. It hits. I put it into my Soul. I don't put anything back into my deck. I don't put another Herald back into my deck, which could have been a Rebirth to send it to loop and stuff like that. because I had two other rebirths already in the bin, I'm pretty sure, that I could have gotten back, one with each other, and I had double Pierce passing out, so they'd be for 10. And I forgot. And I think it cost me the game, but I don't know that it did for sure. I think it did. But at that point, I'm honestly not that worried about it. If that's the problem I have to fix, that's a lot easier problem to fix than this entire matchup because we were both at 2 at the end of the game, basically. Um, and yeah, I'm honestly really happy with how I played this game overall and with how I played this matchup that I thought was so bad. Um, and I'm also just happy that I made it back to a good result at an event with Prism. Because it had been a little bit. Um, but yeah, um, that was the end of that event. Out in top 8. I'm totally okay with it. The guy played super well. It was awesome. And the storyline was honestly fantastic. I kind of loved it. Um, Being also the reviled brute was pretty on brand. But yeah, that was that event. So then the list that I brought was just a very vanilla list. It's my standard thing. I really haven't moved my list ever since I've started playing the deck, basically, except for when Attendant came out. Um, it's just that's the only card. I need to go back and do another video on this card because it's absolutely insane. Equipment is all the same. We've got 9 red heralds. We're down to 3 yellow wraths. I cut the blues. They're just not as good. They're not doing what I need them to do. Only on 7 figments. I don't run the 8th. I don't run Invoke. ALS Genesis Merciful. We got our 4 main flavors of Yellow Herald. Currently Ravages is in, plus whatever other flavor of Yellow Herald you want. And then the standard blues beyond that. And then basically I just put down here the cards that I don't consider part of the core at all times, but just what I had brought in for this event. I think Gambler's Gloves was worth it overall, but I also don't know that you need it. If all the KOs are going to bring beaten trackers into you, toss it. Yeah. I was expecting them to be on scabs, but okay. It ended up being worth it because I hit the RKO, and it made a difference in that game, as well as the Reinar and the Tough Nut. So I was on 11 Red Heralds. I kind of like this number. It got a touch clunkier than I would like at times, but it is what it is. This only puts me at 38 Heralds, with Rebirth being my current second flavor, with Fatigue being a slight issue into Verdance as well as into Gravy. Rebirth has been really nice when I remember to use it. Soul Shields, I'm still on 2. Similar things into Verdance. They're still useful. Into Gravy, they're still useful. Into, if you hit random Guardians, they're still useful. The card's just good. It just does things for you that, like, no other card does. That all you got was my Syndra kind of tech card, and then the third Pierce Reality, which I think is very good in Verdance. They're super important in Verdance. Getting your Heralds over the top when they don't have poppers is just essential. And Pierce Reality lets you do that, and I wanted a third one, and it does it better than Blue Wrath does. So, the list really isn't that special. It's just what it is from before. So, like, it's really not anything crazy. All the equipment is normal. So, um, I'll have this in the description if you want to run around with it. But if you have my old lists that I've posted, it's pretty similar. So, yeah, I don't think Prism was that bad for Worlds. She didn't do crazy well. Literally one game over or half a game over 500. The Syndra matchup, that's about where I expect it to be. 19 and 18 over 37 games. Sure. Honestly, this matchup is very close, and it's a little draw dependent, but not like crazy so. This is the one where it's only 26 games, so 11 and 15 is not like the biggest spread. This is like 2 games different, and it's even. I don't think it's 42, but I think it's a little. It's dependent on what the Prism is sideboarding, and also what the Verdance is sideboarding, because Verdance can bring a lot of hate if they want to. I don't know that they have space necessarily in the deck list for it, but this doesn't totally surprise me. I think Prism is probably, you can make Prism favored. I think you can also, Verdance can also make Prism unfavored. Um, but I don't know. These aren't huge sample sizes, only 125 games. So when you spread that out over matchups, like there's only 4 games into Gravy, and then there's what, 6 games into Psy, 5 games into KO, and I had 2 of them. Okay, Marionette, 7 games total. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think Prism was fine. Um, I'm still on the deck. I don't see any reason to change at the moment. Um, we'll see what Compendium brings. So, um, I think that's going to be it for now on this one. Yeah, I don't know. This was a good weekend. This felt a lot better than Singapore. Even with Worlds Day 1. Worlds Day 1 did not feel good. I really left that day feeling like I wasn't sure what I was doing or if I was like on the right track, but also knew that my sample size was small. And also if I wanted to like, I was wondering if I was going to have anything good to report from this weekend in this. Because I don't, I feel like I'm still like, I feel like I'm relearning the deck, which is weird to say. Um, but it's just like there have been so many things that have just like opened up for me on this deck, and just like my understanding of it and my understanding of the way it interacts with other decks, and the way game, like what game states actually mean and what they look like and how to get into them and how to get out of them, and just like there's so much, and it's just like why I haven't been like putting out a ton of content is I feel like I'm starting over again. um and Worlds Day 1 made me wonder if I'd actually gotten anywhere. I'm going to be honest, but the Battle Hardened let me know that I'm headed in the right direction still, and I have some stuff that I do want to put out, but we'll see when that happens. They announced a bunch of callings, and I plan to be at a bunch of them, and I'm going to keep playing. Absolutely going to keep playing, and I'm going to play Prism as long as I can, I think. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to hop out, and we'll see what I can figure out. For I got a couple videos outlined, but we'll see what I can get done. So with that, peace.